This is the official definitive tier list, by the way. All right, so let's do a WoW tier list. On a few of these that I haven't looked at in a while and have gotten a lot of changes, that I think off the top of my head are basically all of the Druid specs. Preservation Evoker. I do need to duplicate this, though. We are not going to start with spec. We are going to do class trees first. Obviously ignoring DH and Monk for class and spec. On the ones where I'm not so sure about it, I will give the community the option to select it. This is the official definitive tier list, by the way. So this is what we'll do today. Today's just me. In the future, we're going to do the same thing I did with the previous tier list before Season 3, where I will call a member of each community and have them rank their own class relative to every other class on a tier list. That's way more fun. And I'll do that in a bit. But today, just me and my chat. Just doing it natty, you know? Let's just go left to right. Let's go Death Knight. All right, the Death Knight class tree upon recent changes. I don't think the class tree is done being looked at. I think the Death Knight tree absolutely shows some signs of aging. It's not bad. You like, basically, what are you looking for in these class trees? You're looking for power level, you're looking for choice, and you're looking to have stuff you like need now on a fight, and then potentially have more stuff. It's not necessarily bad to have, you know, not have everything you used to have, if you mean you can have it if you need it, but you can spec out of it if you don't need it. That's kind of the point of the talent tree. A lot of people have been contentious about them, saying, oh, well, you know, I can just, why do I have, you know, only some of the abilities I used to have before? It's like, okay, yeah, if your class is genuinely, you have nothing new and you are just having less than what you had before, that's obviously needs a lot of work. There are very few specs like that, but they do exist. Most classes, it's like, okay, you know, I won't actually have, you know, X ability on this fight. You know, I don't actually need Demonic Gateway on this fight. And instead, I can grab some extra health, or I can make one of my abilities stronger, right? So we'll kind of look through that. DK kind of all the way down gets what it wants. One thing that definitely shows its age on the DK tier list specifically is the Leech, Avoidance, Crit, and Strength nodes. Like, I feel like if a class tree came out nowadays and in the middle of their tree they had a bunch of one-pointer, like, complete throwaway nodes, I feel like people just be like, that's just not good enough. I guess, like, Strength and Crit is fine. There's a decent amount of good classes that have, like, one or two of those nodes on the tree, but, like, I don't know. These have always seemed strange to me. You can go around them, but it's whatever. You end up getting a lot of your power, though. You can kind of just go straight through the tree and get stuff that you currently have. Then it comes to this weird point where you kind of just want to go down to the bottom of the tree, but even if you're playing, like, let's say you're playing Frost, this is a blood tree, for example, but, you know, you kind of end up just having to send down this line just to get throughput in the strength increase, but then you don't necessarily need Unholy Ground, but you're just going to have it. And then you go down and grab, you know, Death's Echo, Unholy Bond, whatever. Death's Echo is actually pretty situational. But then you grab, you know, this stuff. And then the same thing as always, where it's been a problem since the very beginning. This improved Death Strike node is, like, totally in the way. This improved Death Strike node makes this not an S tier tree. It's impossible to be an S tier tree. I would say that I think it might be an A, though, because within their class tree, DPS DKs are gaining for the first time the ability to have Will of the Necropolis. Super powerful. Even though they're already really tanky, that's pretty solid. They have the ability to get a second charge of Death's Grip. Insane. Frost DKs get 2 charges of Empowered Room Weapon. Blood DKs get Empowered Room Weapon. You know, every single one of them has a 1-point option, basically, just to slam into Soul Reaper. There's a lot, 2-target Cold Heart for Frost. There's a lot of, like, new stuff on the class tree. DPS DKs getting a 40-second AMS. Do you know how insane that is for so many raid fights? I think it's not like high A, but I don't think this could even be a B. Like, and there is legit choice as well. I think it's definitely an A. I think DK goes in the A tier. Probably going to get passed by some stuff, but I think it's worth thinking about. Next class is Druid. Now, we're going to do a spec tree thing after this. Right now, it is just class tree, not spec tree Druids. Just class tree. Please no mad. Okay? Druid in their class tree is one of the very few that actually has purely utility capstone nodes. And they let... Okay, so if you're talking about stuff they're getting new before, Balanced Druids and Resto Druids don't feel great about it, but they can get either a second kick for balance, or you can get... Resto Druid can get their kick. It is an investment, but it should be an investment. They've been consistent with this. The Paladin tree is the same way. Holy Paladin can get a kick, but you have to go through some stuff that you probably wouldn't otherwise get. I don't think you should get something like that as a healer brand new for free, but it's there if you want it. Very quickly, depending on what spec you are, you go down and you grab the things you need. Balance, it's right here. You get all of your throughput super early in the tree, and you spend your early points really just thinking about basically what utility you want. You're done with throughput very quickly. You get all the utility you previously had. You gain 1 minute roar. You have an option to get renewal that doesn't lock you out of some other better stuff. You have the option to get Heart of the Wild and Nature's Vigil. Every other spec besides Moonkin and Resto gets Innervate. They have all of their... once you end up filling out their tree and getting everything you need in the specs, you have 3 or 4 points to grab Typhoon, to grab Hibernate, to grab some extra defensiveness, to grab some cat synergy. I don't think a lot of people are going to do that, but like, you know, you have the chance to like go get Skull Bash. But basically, based on what the fight needs, you have the ability to go do that. I think there were a few issues on this tree. I haven't looked at it in a while, but I think the class tree for Druid is excellent. All 4 specs kind of play really well. If I remember correctly, though, I think Guardian and Feral have less choice than Balance and Resto, at least from what I could tell. When we did like 2 Resto trees, they were totally different based on like 2 different takes people had. I don't know if this is an S tier tree, but in my opinion, the Druid class tree is the second best in the game. So I'm going to put Druid very up near the top, ahead of Death Knight for now in a class tree specifically. I think it's really good. High A for sure. Yeah, the infamous J.B take. Yeah, that was a take, man. That's quick, though. We can move on. Evoker class tree. It's obviously super hard to rate the class tree of a class that's being released in Dragonflight, because it's hard to separate what the class is in its inception versus what it's like getting back. Every other class, you're like, what were you before? What are you getting now? What choice do you have? What's your power level looking like? What's gameplay look like? Evoker's like, this is what your class is, and we're building it through you through this talent tree. There's nothing to really go off of, so you just kind of have to talk about what kind of choices there is. I mean, if you're playing Devastation, for example, like if you talk about, let's just actually look at it, you know, objectively. If you grab your throughput stuff, you get Essence. You need to kind of go down and grab Living Flame. Currently, their personal is extremely weak. There is a chance you just don't take it. And then you need an extra point to move down. It can be your kick on a kick fight, except most of the time you're going to take it just because you have to take kick to path down the magic damage. Again, that is an error in the tree. You do have a bunch of really good options later that we'll get into. Take Tip the Scales. And in a rate, we'll say this is a rating environment. You're always taking Hover Lasts Longer as a DPS player. You're always taking Fire Breath damage. You're taking Tempered Scales. You're taking Source of Magic. You're taking Grove Tender's Gift to path down to Renewing Blaze. And then even here, you have 1 point before you even get into the capstone level, but there's stuff to choose down there as well. This 1 point could be faster at the beginning of your hover. It could be Scarlet Adaptation. I actually think Scarlet Adaptation, at least for the DPS evokers, is like a really weird talent to have in the tree because it promotes some very weird gameplay. But it is powerful, even though it's been nerfed. Cauterizing Flames, a DPS player getting an ability on a 1 minute cooldown that does a significant heal on any player, removes bleeds, poisons, curse, and disease. That is extremely powerful, and DPS have a pretty easy opportunity to actually go grab that. But for now, let's just say you're doing most content and you are grabbing an Obsidian Scales, for example. Now you've unlocked the bottom part of the tree. I'm almost positive you're going to play Regenerative Magic. That sounds insanely powerful. I think you're going to grab Aerial Mastery. I think you're going to grab Time Spiral, Renewing Blaze, Fire Within, Zephyr, Fly With Me, Twin Guardian. Most encounters, this is kind of a little bit more optional. And again, just as a DPS player, the rest of your tree is pure choice. You can get Azure Strike or Fire Breaths, depending on the fight. Leaping Flames is also like a little bit of a damage increase, because if you take Scarlet Adaptation, this and that, if you want to just go pure throughput, your Leaping Flames on single target will heal other players, giving you technically more damage. Again, I think this is terrible design in my opinion for DPS, but that's fine. If that isn't a thing, you have three more nodes. That means you can grab the Dispel, and a CC, and then any other node. Or you can grab a minute off of your cooldown, but you do have to spend 2 points to get that, which feels really bad. And then you obviously have an extra point to spend a couple other places. Overall, I think the choice on this tree is good. There's only one bad pathing in my opinion. It obviously has a bunch of crazy OP good spells, but it's hard to decide how much of that is the class tree and how much of that is just their inception of the class. So I need you guys to kind of help me decide. This is a little bit up to interpretation, but I think the class tree for Evoker is pretty solid. I don't think it's bad at all. Oppressing Roar has a tangent here. I think it might be a B, but I don't really know much of it that's bad. Like, it's kind of just a good class tree. I think it's low A. It's probably better than Demon Hunter, though, but I think there might be something else better than it. I think it's definitely got a lot going on. Again, it's a really hard one to judge, but I think it's like an interesting thought process, at least. Okay, next on the list is Hunter. Good old Hunter class tree. As of this time, and just in case this is a YouTube video, probably will be, why not? This is a weird time for Hunter. So Hunter is getting the most feedback that any class has ever gotten ever. They're getting weekly or like twice weekly. I was gonna say bi-weekly, but isn't that two week? Who knows? Let's not even argue about that. Like, they're getting a lot of posts about their class and a lot of changes. A lot of these changes have been very good. So if you haven't been keeping up, very recently they gave them a 3-minute cooldown, which has the option to be almost a 2-minute cooldown with Born to be Wild and the new change to Lone Survival. That makes it a little bit longer. And this is without having a pet out, just for all hunters. And then they also have a chance to actually have a 40% DR on that 3-minute cooldown, slightly reduced by Born to be Wild. That's giving them a lot more defensive power than they currently have. And they also have a Tenacity pet with a 2-minute cooldown, 20% health increase. Hunters are noticeably tankier than before. That is a big difference for Hunter. They're getting all the utility they currently have. They're giving them raid utility, and they're reworking their idea of it, because it's honestly Sentinel's kind of bad, to be honest with you. I think a lot of the stuff they've done is good. I think the whole idea of Sentinel was not great. The stuff at the bottom, you're very hard lined into what you want. The stuff in the middle, there are a couple of good choice nodes. Intimidation, High Explosive Trap, excellent choice. Binding Shot, Scatter Shot, excellent choice. Again, good choice on the defensive node. But again, we're gonna have to rate it for how it is right now. Right now, the tree has dodge chance on it, and he kind of intended that he did that on purpose. So that's not good. I really don't think it's a D. This is the swamp ass tier. Okay, I don't think it's swamp ass. I think Hunter is a solid C. Padra saying C. D for dodge. Next is going to be Mage. This is gonna be okay. Let's just do Mage. Mage has not received any changes yet. Mage, to get power, has to go and path through things they don't want for power and are not really choice. So far, like, if you just take the stuff you need for throughput, there's even talks for some specs skipping one of their capstone levels just to get the 2 points in the 2% crit node. Like, think about how bad those capstones are if people are doing that, right? Like, that's insane. There's very little choice in the tree. I'll explain to you how all specs work. They take Shimmer, Ice Flows, both of them are solid. They get around to the 17 point mark, and then they have to realize exactly what they want. They usually get to here, they're like, okay, I need Mirror Image now. So then they grab Cooldown of Ice Block. Again, should be a situational fight thing. It's not relevant all the time. And then you take Mirror Image. Obviously, it's good in PvP. And then you now have unlocked 20 points. Oh, I actually already messed up. I have 2 less points that I have to take out somewhere. I forget exactly where it is. Oh, it's this. I put 3 points in Tempest Barrier. That's hard cursed. There's these 3-point nodes going down to the bottom that are extremely low power level. And the things opposite of them are 1 point. So regardless of how powerful these are, you're just going to take the 1-pointer because it's every single 1-pointer here is better than all these 3-pointers. And also, like, just imagine spending that many points on that. So then you route that here, and then you still get the 20 unlocked. And then basically, as soon in the Mage tree, as soon as you unlock this, there's no choice anymore. Because if you look at the 1-point nodes on the tree, there's usually there's a spell steal angle. If you need slow or spell steal, these are interchangeable. It's only Master of Time. So you just pick your 2 capstones you want. If you want Shifting Power, for example, you just route through Accumulative Shielding and you lose the magic damage reduction. Feels bad, man. Right? And then you go Flow of Time, Greater Invis, Time Anomaly, which Mage players don't like, Diverted Energy, Dragon's Breath, and Meteor. And then you have 1 point, and it's Master of Time. 0 choice, very little power increase to 0, bad pathing, bad decision making, terrible 1-point nodes. I don't know if this is the worst tree in the game. I think it is the worst tree in the game. Let me. It is the worst tree in the game. Yeah, it's the. Wait. What would? Paladin's the only one that's close to being that. Yeah. Mage is definitely the worst tree in the game. Yeah. Okay, so it's down here. I know like hunters are mad at this, but like, yeah, it's not that bad. Demon Hunter and Monk are not out yet, so we're gonna go to Paladin. So this tree's got a lot of problems as well. It's pretty bad. For a couple reasons. They have some of the worst 1-point nodes in the game. I don't even know if they've talked about potentially changing these yet. Like 1 second on Divine Steed screams of like that old Survival Hunter trait before they fixed it. They have no Paladin spec likes this of Dusk of Dawn Seal of Order stuff in the bottom left. It's not things that players like playing with. It's not a significant power increase, and one of the specs is kind of shoehorned into it. They made a terrible mistake of doing what some classes have done with rank 2s in the game. So I believe Avenging Wrath in the game gets a rank 2 at some point and makes it a 2-minute. But people have always had 2-minute Avenging Wrath. So on the talent tree, with people who like play the game at endgame, having Avenging Wrath be a 3-minute only for you to spend a point later to bring it down to 2-minute, and then in every class tree, which is every spec tree, which is another thing, they make you also spend a point to kind of get it back to what it was previously. I think it's a slight power increase because it's also extra damage on top of the 20%. Yeah, but I mean, it's still like getting the crit back, for example. This tree in general feels really bad. Also, Ret Paladins are in a weird spot where they're probably going to be tuned to where they are playing with Retribution Aura, which is way better now than it used to be. And because Devotion Aura is required in a raid, it means that a Ret Paladin can only be the second they can only be the second Paladin in the raid if they are playing Retribution Aura. That's kind of a negative. They did give Ret and Holy Spell Warding, which is very powerful. Like, very, very powerful. So that's definitely a big up. They gave Holy Paladin the option to get Kick. They made Sack a 1-minute. So they did give them some power here, but a lot of the tree just feels bad. I think it might not be the second worst in the game, but it's very close to that. I think the main problem areas are just Divine Steed. Divine Steed up here is like a really, really rough. This whole section is crazy. Yeah, that just shouldn't make you have to do that. And then maybe one of the worst things in the whole tree is I'm not going to spend a ton of time making this tree, but I'm just going to do it just for the sake of argument. I'm going to go to like a holy tree. Actually, no, I'll do Ret. Okay, so again, regardless of the fact that you are auto-spec'd into Ret Aura as a Ret Paladin, where if you are the only Paladin in your raid, you would have to be Devotion Aura, right? Not necessarily in a dungeon, not necessarily in PvP, but in a raid, Devotion Aura, hard priority over Ret Aura, no matter what, if you're the only Paladin. So you're basically the same thing as Warrior, where you are getting a dead thing. Your Fury Warriors get Berserker Stance for free, which is a dead talent to them. It's the same thing with Ret Paladin, basically, where a lot of the times they won't actually be using this. But then Fists of Justice, go down, grab the Haste Increase, get Divine Steed. Probably need to fill out some stuff up here. You can grab, you can get your Cavalier points to go down, or if you want to go touch any of the stuff over here, you can grab like Freedom or Aura of the Resolute, and just like Blinding Light or something to continue pathing. You grab Avenging Wrath, you grab Bop to go down to the last row. Again, you have to grab Bop even on a fight where Bop is of not any use to you, to grab a cooldown reduction and like basically all of your throughput in the bottom of the tree for all 3 specs. Go Judgment, all this. Again, not going to spend a ton of time on all these buttons and explain what they are. I'm just going to kind of path down the tree and let you guys see what happens near the bottom. Okay, so then you grab Avenging Wrath. You grab whatever you want of these two, and potentially both, I guess. And then you're going to grab Sanctified Wrath, go over here, grab whatever one of these does more damage, or the Consecrate thing, Seal the Crusader, Mad Paragon, and then you have 3 points left. Every single time at the end of the tree, when you are done with this, you have 3 points left. and you'd want to think about taking Unbreakable Spirit. You'd want to think about taking some potential off-healing options or actual utility like another Charge of Horse or Divine Steed Duration or any of these things. And every single time, you're just giving up massive throughput by not taking Seal of Might. And you just always take Seal of Might and you have no choice. Paladin is pretty rough. Mist. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Guys, I misspoke. I thought when I did this, I said that not to focus on exactly the stuff I'm putting in. Obviously, take Divine Purpose and some other stuff. You get the point, right? Like, you could easily take the point out of Blessing of Sacrifice and give you Divine Purpose. It doesn't change the point of the argument. All right, so Rep Paladin, or just Paladin. And by the way, every single Paladin spec suffers this exact same problem. I just used Red as an example. Is it better or worse than Hunter? It's definitely not Swamp Ass. Nothing. I promise you, nothing in the game is as bad as the Mage tree. I honestly think the Hunter is better, but only because Hunter has gotten more work. I think the Paladin tree is like a couple of changes from just being better. The Hunter one is kind of, dude. Honestly, this is what the Hunter tree seems like. Yes, they're getting a ton of feedback. Yes, that dev seems to be very bright and he has very good takes. Okay. But with that amount of feedback, it kind of makes you wonder if the spec was kind of just like fundamentally flawed from the get-go, and it didn't have a lot of stuff going for it, and they're kind of having to just like improv on the fly and realizing that some classes don't have the same things as other classes, which is why it requires that much feedback, right? Like, so many things have had to happen to the Hunter tree because it seems like they just keep band-aiding certain things and it just like messes up other things and they have to keep changing it. I think Paladin goes here.
I am sorry.
Dude, is Hunter a B? I think Hunter would be a B, but the dodge chance puts it a whole row lower. I think Hunter is a B without dodge chance, but dodge chance exists. I don't make the rules, I just enforce them. So we have Paladin there. I don't think anything else is going in the Swamp Ass territory. I will ask you guys to guess where the last two classes are going to go. And next is Priest. Okay, so I'm going to have to remind myself about Priest. And hey, I think there are issues with Priest, but I think the majority of them are in the spec tree, actually. We need to be objective. We are going to be rating the specs after this, okay? Right now, it is just the class. As far as I was able to tell, again, I don't remember the exact builds they did. It was kind of a long time, but I don't think they had too many gripes with the actual class tree. I think there was like a couple of nodes that were not super intuitive, but they basically give you like Twins of the Sun Priestess, which makes power and... But dude, we haven't talked about this in a while. Dude, I think Shadow Priests are in such a weird spot this upcoming expansion. Do you guys know how good this legendary... Like giving power infusion on a 2-minute cooldown to another class and then also giving it to yourself is worth so much damage. Like, just at this point in the expansion, power infusion, using it on the same target every 2 minutes can be worth up to 3k DPS single target. Like, think about that. Like, with no other external buffs, just PI. 3k, 2 to 3k single target. So just imagine Shadow Priest next expansion having Twins of the Sun Priestess. If you look at Warcraft logs and you look at, like, you know, just damage for Skolix or whatever, just Sepulcher statistics, 95th percentile. Okay, Shadow Priest is here, right? Like, kind of whatever this score is. Let's look at Skolix too. Okay, so Shadow Priest is 4th at 16k. Do you know if this is what their actual single target attributed to their character was like in Dragonflight, which again, Shadow Priest is usually pretty decent single target. Do you know how much better they would be than every class in the game, basically? They would be like right up here with Enhanced Shaman, which Enhanced Shaman is already like an outlier. Also, this is a super weird list because this is very, very small sample size because this is looking at Season 4, but non-faded Sepulcher. So I'll probably just change this to 9.2.5 and then kind of show you. Okay, so this is a little bit more relevant, right? Imagine if Shadow Priest gains 2 to 3k DPS on this list. So basically, for Shadow Priest to be balanced the whole expansion, they're going to have to be doing this level of single target or damage on their own because of the value they're bringing with PI, which I think is like another weird side effect of Power Infusion, which again, I don't really dislike Power Infusion. I think Power Infusion is fine, but, or I guess maybe I've accepted it because clearly they're just not going to go in a different direction, so there's no reason to talk about it. But yeah, and then if you look where Shadow Priests are actually going, yeah, I don't know. They probably pick a bunch of this stuff. I'm just going to make some stuff up. But I believe once you unlock the capstone levels for Priest, I think the decision-making wasn't bad, right? Just like Slam, Shadow Flame, Prism, you know, probably some of this stuff and some other stuff. That again, don't correct me if it's wrong. I'm sure it's wrong. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff you'd want. I don't remember if there was a ton of choice, dude. I need to actually wait. Is there a Shadow Priest Super Genius in chat? I just need an objective rating from them, or just a Priest player. I need a Priest Super Genius to just kind of give me a class tree. There's not much choice. All right, if you guys are Priest players, not the spec trees. If you had to guess the class tree, B, C, B, C. I think it's a B, but I'm also stupid. All right, it'll be the first B tier class. All right. Oh, Public is here? Oh, shit. What did he say? What did Public say about Priest class tree is D or C tier IMO? Oh, shit. Okay, wait. I'm going to call you real quick. Okay, what's your take for why Priest should be C or D instead of B? I thought it was B because, like, I thought a lot of the issues for Priest lied in their spec tree, and, like, the class tree was fine, but okay, just tell me why.
I think the big problem is like the spec tree is way worse, so that's why we're talking about it more. The class tree has, I think, two big problems from like my perspective. The first one is Shadowflame Prism becomes the baseline playstyle for Shadow or Priest if they want to spec into damage. It's not a playstyle a lot of Priests like to play. Even Holy or Disc seems kind of weird. And the other major problem from any Priest perspective is the actual tree stuff on the Holy side, which is like far left, and then Disc, which is middle, is not really appealing to the other specs. Like, it's just kind of junk that no one really wants to take. So, for example, as a Shadow Priest, you're not incentivized whatsoever to go left or the kind of like middle-ish side. Like, there's no real spec there that you can be like, oh, I want to take up more off healing. That's not really a thing. Like, you can buff Holy Nova and Smite when you go left, right? Like, it's just not appealing. And they did shove a lot of like the utility we've had for years in here, but I don't know. None of it's enticing, and there's no real choice to be made. Is the big problem.
What I forget what you do at the bottom of this tree, by the way. I selected a bunch of random shadow things that are probably wrong, but what do you do with, like, as a Shadow Priest, for example, with your last 7 points? Just like real quick, don't have to think about it. It's like, do you send down to mind games, or do you?
Yeah, you for sure send down to mind games single target. I think dungeons you would go like dominant mind depending on the dungeon if you can use it. But yeah, and you can always pick up masochism if you need the DR. That's the kind of other option.
Okay, but there's really no actual choice then, right? Because it's like
masochism is in the top. But
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like you kind of get all the damage stuff you want for free, and even if you didn't want to spec mind games or whatever, like you're not gaining much.
Okay. And then do you think that the other priests have basically just as many problems? Once you fill out all your throughput, you don't really have any real choice. And it's also not necessarily gaining you a lot of power. Like, it definitely doesn't make you feel much stronger in this tree than you are currently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. I mean, you're picking up power infusion and twins, and that's probably why they didn't put a whole lot of power in here, because they're like, well, you're going to get those, right?
Yeah. Okay, so what would you do if you were in charge of this? Where would you rate priest class tree? You have full autonomy. You can do it. Class tree alone.
I would put it D for sure.
Swamp ass?
Yeah, for sure, man. Like a class tree should give you. You have to have choices. You have to give stuff up to get things you want, which we don't have that at all. And there's literally no incentive for the other specs to go deep into the other trees right now. So that's why I think it's D. I think a good class tree should be like, man, I could sack this utility to pick up more throughput. Or I could, as a Shadow Priest, take out mind games for great off healing and just be like, oh, yep, we can run one less healer because we have a Shadow Priest that spec'd into more healing in their class tree. And we don't have anything like that right now.
Okay, thank you for your service, Public. Thanks for being on call.
Yeah, no worries, man.
See you, man.
See you.
All right, we've handled Priest. Moving on to Rogue. So Rogue has came out and has gotten very little changes. They've moved a few things back to their class tree instead of spec tree, like getting Shiv up at the top for Ass. So actually Ass has 2 charges of Shiv. A lot of the stuff in the middle, the thing is I don't remember there being a lot of choice, right? So like you always need Cloak. You're going to want to run a lot of this stuff. Maybe you don't need tricks all the time. You don't need blind all the time, but you probably want feint, so you're just going to grab blind. Again, you're grabbing blind, hugely situational in PvE. just to get something that you need all the time. Again, not great, but at the beginning, you're kind of just selecting things they want you to have. It's okay if they want you to have blind. It's also possible you're playing a fight where feint isn't good, right? There are definitely, like, if you're to look at a raid encounter specifically, that is really hard, but it's all just passive damage. Like, you don't really feint a lot of the time during that. You feint for, like, big hits that could kill you in combination with passive damage, which is, again, most raid fights, but it's possible that you don't want feint, I guess. Maybe I'm crazy. So that's not good, really. That's not good. Can grab Numbing, can grab Master Poisoner in a lot of cases, but let's just grab this and move on. Actually, maybe we don't necessarily want Tricks yet. We want Gouge since we're already pathing through, and then that way we can go down all three, get Shadow Step, get Improved this, get Night Stalker, because we're going to go down and do like the Shadow Dance build. They allowed Shadow Dance to go to the non-sub-specs, which I think is really cool. I think it no longer gets reduced with Outlaw CDR, though. That's something to consider, but I think still cool nonetheless. You know, probably just grab some of this stuff. Again, I'm not even going to just pretend like I remember looking at the rogue trees as much. Always grab Cheat Death. You will always take this. And then find Weakness, and then Shadow Dance, I believe. Just the fact that you're taking Cheat and Shadow Dance is a 3-point investment, and 2 of them are already very good. I think like most specs are going to take this. Dude, I still need to have a more in-depth rogue conversation. I'm kind of waiting for a few more things to change, but maybe they won't. I'm really holding on. Again, and this is about the spec trees, but I think this is relevant for the class tree discussion. I really think if Assassination Rogues continue to have Atrophic Poison and other rogue specs don't, I think this needs to be a class tree thing. You're not going to take it in all combat. You probably won't take it in PvP. You probably won't take it in Mythic Plus, but in raiding, it is money back guarantee required. You need this. Even if Shiv didn't work, basically a second Devotion Aura that works as a debuff on the boss, and not just an aura on your character, is way too powerful on most encounters. So my only issue with this is I would like to see Atrophic Poison moved into the class tree, because currently in a raiding scenario, when you are playing optimally, you want people to play the class or the spec that they want to play, and people are going to be playing sub and outlaw as the second and third rogues into the raid behind assassination currently, with this being in the game. So would like to see that moved. That's just a note about the class tree. But again, just moving on from what we had before, you know, just down here, get Feint, Gouge, so we can continue down the tree, Cloak, Shadow Step, stuff like that. Probably not Rush Setup, but Shadow Runner. Grab this. Grab both of these, I believe, and that. Sprint, go down. Grab Improved Ambusher and Acrobatic Strikes, getting down to the bottom. You get Cheat Death, easy 3 points into Shadow Dance. And then you have a bunch of choices here. Based on the spec, it kind of ended up being a lot of the things, a lot of the same stuff when I was talking to James. Where we're not getting Marked for Death right now. Something interesting. That used to be on the right side of the tree. But like if you wanted Elusiveness is like super insane on some encounters. You can get Echoing Reprimand, you can get Lethality, you can get Vigor, you can get Deeper Stratagem, Alacrity. Getting Thistle Tea is kind of an investment. I don't know if that's changed since the last time we looked at it, but like, I don't know. I don't know where I'd put Rogue, actually. I feel like when Rogue came out, it was like the most wide tree. Like Rogue trees are thick as shit, right? Or actually the Assass one isn't. But like, they were just like really wide. They were almost all 1-point talents. And this was back before in the early talent tree days when people were just slamming 3-point talents down there. And that's largely been removed outside of mages. So I don't know if man, it's because the thing is rogues like aren't in a bad spot, but a lot of their power comes from spec trees. So I think their class tree is honestly like kind of basic. I mean, they're getting the stuff they have, but they're not really getting much stronger. I guess other classes getting Shadow Dance is a bit stronger. There's a scenario where you would take Lethality and Vigor, and also a scenario where you take Alacrity and Deeper Stratagem, I imagine. But it does have 3-point nodes here that are kind of restrictive. Like, if you're going to path down through Marked for Death and you want Thistle Tea, let's just imagine that Thistle Tea is the same power level as Shadow Dance. Just say that that's true. Not sure if that's true. Probably isn't. On this side of the tree, you have to path through Leeching Poison, right, to get down to here. And here you have to path through Cheat Death. Those two things are not the same, right? One of them is massively better than the other one. So I just don't know how I feel about that. But all right, chat. Call JPC. I don't know if JPC's around. Isn't he doing the great push? Isn't he pushing? Isn't he a pusher? I'm going to have to send it without him. All right, chat, poll. Only rogues vote. No one else sabotage. This will work for sure. Dude, are you guys saying B just because that fills out the tier list better and there's not currently a B, so you feel like there has to be one? And you're just going to admit it, too. Okay. All right, fuck it. I gave you guys the choice. You put it in B. That's fine. But okay, you're basically saying that with it being B, that it's better than Hunters and Paladins. That's absolutely fucking true. And then you're also saying it's worse than DK. I would also say I actually like DK's tree better than this one, I think. The class tree specifically. It's about the same as DK, though. Druid's definitely better. Evoker's like its own. There's no reason to talk about Evoker. I think DK just has more actual choice. Man, I think it might be A, actually. I just don't know about this. I feel like they're actually indifferent. Does Rogue beat DK just because DK has the A-bombs limb node that's locked off for the entire expansion and will never be selected? That's a pretty big blunder, and it's been known and still not fixed. So that's probably right. Maybe even DK becomes B now that we have a little bit more context. You do get a lot. I mean, guys, DKs are gaining power in this tree. All 3 specs have access to Soul Reaper. All 3 specs have access to 2 charges of Death Advance and Death Grip. All 3 specs have access to Empower Room Weapon or a second charge of it. I don't know. It's all 3 specs have 40-second AMS and raid content. Like it's very, very good. Very good. I think it's still a yeah. Okay. All right, we're back on track. Oh boy, it's that fucking time. I don't know if there's been a single class tree that I don't know. Dude, this class tree is so good that it was nerfed not by a crazy small amount. Like if the same nerfs happened to the Shaman tree to any other class, they would be in shambles. And Shamans are like, yeah, it was probably too good. And it's still the best tree. I mean, it's the best tree by far. The class tree of Shaman is an absolute fucking masterpiece. Not only do you get all your abilities that you want, but you get significant power increases defensively and mobility-wise. And then when you're done with all your tree and you have all your throughput, you have access to brand new raid and party utility. And you have, I think it's like 7 or 8 points to spend on stuff that you just want and you don't need. I mean, it's an absolute masterpiece. Yeah, I honestly think it needs its own tier, but I don't even think another class is gonna... Actually, no, I think Warlock might also be S tier, but for a different reason. Which we'll kind of get into. I don't even need to talk about this, but yeah, I mean, I guess just for the sake of argument, I'll just do this, actually, just so people can see it. Again, we'll just use, again, we've used this a bunch, so a lot of you guys are laughing if you've seen all these things, but like, if you're just selecting what you'd select on like a normal fight and just grabbing all the stuff you need, you are hard chilling, man. You are actually hard chilling. You get everything you want. Get the damage reduction node, get the graceful spirit, probably grab Wind Rush, Nature's Guardian, pretty powerful healing stream, nature damage, Wind's Valakir, Ankh Totem thing, Spirit Walk or Gust of Wind. And then there's also the reduction for both of these, which these are now two pretty... Something to note, they actually did lose a little bit of choice. Because if you're taking a 30-second Gust of Wind, there's a good chance you want that bitch to be 20 seconds. I think these 2 points with Gust of Wind in most raiding encounters, at least for Ellie Shaman, are probably required. Not to mention Spirit Walk is also excellent. But I think you're most likely going to take these 2 points now, where before it did not really feel necessary. The DR node is only magic now? Yeah, but there's so few throughput nodes on your tree that you're kind of just taking it anyway. Like, 4% magic reduction is really good. Most of the stuff that kills you is magic. And then now here you are with things you don't necessarily need but can get. You can grab Mana Spring and Ancestral Guidance. You can grab all of these things at once if you needed. Interrupt, Cap Totem, Hex, Cleanse Spirit. There's probably some more shit. A better Cap Totem. All of this. And all of these are things you don't even need on every fight at all. You could not have a single one of them and it'd be totally cool. But sometimes the fight needs exactly one of them. But every single point you don't spend in it, you just get other cool shit. Absolute masterpiece of a tree. Choice is infinite. Power level is very good. Absolute banger. I don't blame other classes for not being this good, though. Because I think one thing Shaman has going for it is it has a ton of buttons and a ton of like things and totems and all that stuff. And the more stuff you have like that, I think generally speaking, the easier it is to make your talent trees good. But yeah, this is an absolute masterpiece for sure. Moving on to Warlock. Just recently released. I actually yesterday already have a video out for it, by the way. My editor went fucking overtime. Warlock got released yesterday. Or we did our talk for it yesterday, got released on Tuesday. Oh, did Wowhead finally fix it? They did. Oh, man, they fixed it the day after we did our talk. God damn it. Here's some potential downsides for the Warlock tree. You kind of always pick the same things, and there's a couple of nodes that you are taking that feel really bad. So overall, let's talk about the good things about the Warlock tree. You get everything you want and is good, and then you also have choice to grab things you didn't have before. So I'll just go ahead and grab, just stuff like this for every spec. You can kind of go down and grab some other stuff just to get enough points. You need that stam node, need this stam node, and then now you're sitting here with 2 more points. I'm probably missing something important, but 45 seconds left on Dark Pact and, Gateway, I guess, if you need it. But I'm intentionally not selecting Gateway. Just Burning Rush. Fast. And then you just take everything. Soul Link, Inquisitor's Gaze, Decimating Bolt, Soul Conduit, Summon Jailer, Soul Burn, Path of the Eridar, Dimensional Rift, still have an extra point to throw into a utility that you want. Now, you don't always need 45-second Dark Pact, as crazy as that sounds. Super overkill. The class has 20% passive DR now. This class, good thing. Gained Soul Burn back. Has some good, cool uses. I wish they would also add Soul Swap to this and make Soul Swap better. Soul Link. Now, every single Warlock spec has 20% passive DR at all times. They have Dark Pact, again, which is insane. But now is also a 45-second cooldown. Not only do they have the Unending Resolve option they had last expansion as a 40% reduction, but they also have the opportunity to make it a 2 minute and 15-second cooldown, but a 25% CD if they just want more coverage, right? As if Warlocks need that. But the cool, and then even more stuff is there are fights where you don't need Gateway, and you can spec that into something that can actually help you in some other way. And anytime you need anything on this tree, you can get it without sacrificing a lot of throughput. You just have to make some choices on exactly how tanky you want to be. Not bad. Okay, bad things about this tree and why I think it can't be better than Shaman. At the bottom, it's very boring. You do the same thing with every single spec. You don't even really think about Pact of the Imp Mother as much because you have to path through Teachings of the Black Harvest. Every single spec takes these. The only difference is in Mythic Plus, you probably would drop Dimensional Rift for like Shadow Fury. And then also you might drop another like Inquisitor's Gaze depending on tuning and grab the 2 points impact of the Annihilon. And then a Decimating Bolt as well. If you were doing like an AoE scenario. And you could drop any points up here to make everything else work. So it's a little basic at the bottom. And it's very repetitive. Other bad things, currently, to get Demonic Circle, which is an extremely useful thing, you have to get Accrued Vitality, which is really only relevant for Affliction. And even then is something you would want as an option defensively, but you have to get it. Very weird choice. So it's like almost like you're losing 2 points on the tree, which could very well go into things that matter. Same thing with Spell Lock. Spell Lock, we talked about this yesterday. It's intentionally on your character now. There's been a lot of controversy about this because high-end players love the fact that Spell Lock is not on your character because you can do it on your pet and you can kick from way farther away than your character, and it also doesn't interrupt your casts. A lot of casual players, however, have been like, wow, I love this now because this is way more easier to manage. Pet micromanagement is actually very difficult. A lot of players do not do that well. There's kind of a lot going on with that. If you're trying to do it at a high level. So they want this. I think the solution by the Warlock community that's been, asked about is this is an excellent choice node. Turn Spell Lock into a choice node. One choice is you have your interrupt on your pet like usual, and the other choice is you have it on yourself. No-brainer. Works for everyone. Let's see. Did the pet kick go away? Thought they still have Felguard kick. Yeah, Demo does technically have 2 kicks with the Felguard kick, yeah. You're saying they put this at the beginning of the tree on purpose, so you have to invest in it? That's not how beginning of the tree stuff works. It's fine to have to invest into stuff that's good. It does not make sense to invest into things that do not relate to the thing you're investing to at all. That feels terrible in every tree, and they've been almost universally fixed, at least the ones that have been addressed and talked about as developers. They instantly are like, yeah, that's bad, and they fix it. If they've gotten around to giving feedback about it. Yeah, they exclusively do not like... Picking something that has nothing to do with anything else is bad. They have said that as well. And then, again, Warlocks are in this weird spot, too. Again, the only other bad thing about the tree, in my opinion, is 10% stamina node is pretty required. It's something they have currently, but they're just picking something back they have already. The fact that you have to path through kick to get this feels weird when a lot of other classes can choose to not get their kick on an encounter where you don't need it. And then you can gain power in other ways. But obviously you will pick kick 80% of the expansion, most likely. But there is a 20, that's the whole point of the talent trees. When you're not using abilities, being able to unselect them to gain power in other areas is why this is good. There is really no choice here. You're basically just investing 2 points into stam. That can be fixed easily with a swap. This tree just came out. I have no idea if this dev is very communicative or whatever, but this tree is almost at Shaman tier, but not. I want to say it's S. The other thing I forgot to mention is there are 2 philosophies of class trees so far: DPS throughput capstones or utility capstones. Most of them are DPS, but what every other DPS has is like they've done like a mix. Yes, they have DPS capstones, but they don't make you really have to commit. It's not like Mage, right? It's not like you have to commit to 1 or 2 of these things. You can get everything you want down here. And a lot of the times you don't actually select everything. And you can actually still go back up and get things. Whereas opposed to 90% of the throughput trees, you actually, as soon as you unlock this 20-point thing, every single fucking point you have is going below here, if possible. Also, no 3-point nodes. I don't think 3-point nodes are always bad, but they might always be bad. I'm like 98% sure 3-point nodes are objectively bad. Okay, moving on to the last tree. Warrior. Tree's good and the tree's bad. It's got a lot of really good things. It's really hard to rate this because most DPS specs in this are going to like kind of path down, grab this stuff, you know, grab what they need. Just gonna, oh no, I think you want, there's some damage stuff over here for sure, right? Oh yeah, I'll go over the problems. I'll just fill it out for a second, then I'll show you the issues. You go down here, you grab, let's just do Arms Warrior, you go down, grab Massacre, you get Bounding Stride just to path to Frothing Berserker. Then you get Double Time, Rend, and the Armor Talent. And I think you have 1 more point to move on. There's a couple of things. But keep in mind, you're picking the Leech because like you have to. Not to say that Leech isn't bad, but why would I take Zerker stance? Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the issue. Right now you're taking defensive stance for some, you know, defensiveness. You don't have to, but I mean, if you've played an Arms Warrior without defensive stance in high-end content, it can be kind of spooky. Berserker stance you have to take to go down to get War Machine and Furious Blows, which is kind of weird. That feels really bad. It feels like 2 wasted talents. And then once you get to the bottom, it has another issue as well. I'm just going to put this point in somewhere just so we have it. Let's just go Second Wind because we're always dead, right? At the bottom, it has, in every single warrior tree, it has like these 2-point things you have to invest in. So even though there's all this cool capstone stuff at the bottom, because you're an arms warrior and you're using 2-handers, no matter what, you're always spending 3 points. Fine. Okay, that's not the worst idea, but whatever. It also gives you access to Spear Bastion and Elysian Might. Okay. And then you're just always taking this, and you're grabbing Avatar, and in most cases, you're grabbing Signet. And then you have 1 point left, or 2 points left, actually. And that can go a few different directions. You can ever grab the 1 point in Bitter Immunity. It's a heal on a 3-minute cooldown that also removes a bunch of shit. Or if you like you were AoEing, for example, you could go like Thunderclap, Blood and Thunder. But it's weird. The left side of the capstone tree, yeah, you could get 4% haste, exactly, if you weren't AoEing or wanted to play Blood and Thunder. This right side of the tree is like this weird, like there's a shockwave thing here at the bottom, which is, it just doesn't really fit. Like that should probably be somewhere else. It seems like they just put the right side of the tree for prot almost in a way, but also kind of not. The thing is, we're not going to judge this too much because they said they kind of want to redesign the bottom right of the tree. And I think that makes sense. It really, like, all the DPS specs do the same shit except Fury Warrior just grabs this one instead of this one, right? I don't know. It's kind of weird. So, good news. They gain some power. They get Blood and Thunder back as DPS specs and prot. Bitter Immunity is actually really solid. Spell Reflection, again, not really a class tree thing, but after you deflect or reflect a spell, it still gives you the damage reduction for the full duration. That's huge. You have options to get like utility stuff you want and need in here. The only thing that's a problem is Berserker Stance is in a weird spot right now. It's required to get throughput for arms, even though you'll never use it. Fury, to get their maximum benefit through the bottom of the tree, Crushing Force currently does nothing for them. They did make it a choice node, but it's a choice node with concussive blows, which is, again, very situational. And it's a sim thing. It might not even just be better for Crushing Force for prot and arms, but Fury has no integration with Crushing Force whatsoever. None. They would have to take Seismic Reverberation. Maybe you want Seismic Reverberation, right? But that it's just weird that there's no path through this node for Fury at all. And then every spec is going to want War Machine and Furious Blows, right? And every single one of them, the only way to get it at all is to path between Leech, which again isn't bad, but then you have to pick Berserker Stance, which no spec will use in PvE ever. It is objectively worse than Battle Stance for every spec of Warrior, as far as I'm aware. And it's just a dead point. War Machine's kind of meh for prot. Yeah, sure. You understand my point though, right? But yeah. But man, they gained a lot of power back. Like, Prot Warrior Rend Blood and Thunder build is really solid. They gave them the Rally Conduit, even though it's a nerfed version of itself. There's just some pathing issues. The bottom of the tree is still kind of weird, but they do gain power. And then another weird thing, again, I'm using arms right now. If you start as Fury, Fury starts pathing, and the free point you get is Berserker Stance, but you'll never use it, and you have to path from Battle Stance. Still just a very weird, very weird. Oh, Fury takes dual wield and that? That's fine. Yeah, it's really important that you guys don't focus as much on the specifics, because it really feels like I'm misspeaking or somehow not getting the point across. I don't think I am. Like, if I'm like making a very broad, like, big picture argument for the tree, and then someone's just like, well, you would actually take exactly that point most of the time. It's like, you know, yeah. I mean, think about that, though. If you're a Fury Warrior and you want to interact at the capstone level, you do have to do this. It's a 10% damage increase for a 1-point thing here, and a 10% damage increase for a 1-point here, and then to path down to Avatar it all, you have to spend these two. So then you're kind of just borked. Yeah, that's yeah, that feels bad. But then prot is so powerful, I feel like. Prot definitely got the best glow up in the tree, I believe. Do I skip Impending Victory now with that? Probably just grab the Leech. Yeah, I would say after the changes, maybe you're right. Maybe this is more of a B. Well, wait, what changes? Is it just losing die by the sword? I mean, guys, that wasn't going to be a thing. That was a little too much, I think. You guys think it's B? Is the warrior tree worse than the Death Knight tree? I actually think that's true. The Death Knight tree, you have choices at the bottom, and there's one bad node, but like the bottom of the tree for warrior is way more problematic than DK. Also, DK doesn't have nearly as many bad pathing. Yeah, I think warrior is a solid bit below DK. And DK is the worst of the A tier. Yeah, that works. Okay, so this is where we stand right now. Shamans and Warlocks, you're hard-goated. You're set for the expansion. These ones, class tree-wise, might get a little better, but you're not upset. Warriors want changes. Hunters and Paladins are in shambles. But Hunters, I think, have a lot of hope, because even though the Hunter tree still has issues, you at least have a dev that is willing to talk to you basically every day of the week on how to fix it. And honestly, that's just like the best sign ever. I would be willing to bet that any class that has a clearly talented dev, this guy made the Shaman tree, that is talking to you all the time, your class tree, by the time Dragonflight comes out, you're going to be all right. Paladin tree needs work, but it's not irredeemable. Honestly, like, Paladin is so easy to fix. Replace this shit in the bottom left with something else that's just way more interesting, and I don't think that's hard to do. Get rid of some of these 3-point nodes. Stop people being forced into Seal of Might into taking any of the other stuff. Don't make Avenging Wrath multiple nodes. And Divine Steed should be like... These 4 points in Divine Steed should be reduced to like 2 to get all of this shit. Or 3. Like, Divine Steed, second charge, 2 more seconds. With 1 point or something. But, yeah. That wouldn't feel as bad if they gave you more points throughout the tree. I feel like okay, that is kind of a lot of things. I said it'd be so easy to just, and then I just named like 5 things. Priest apparently needs a ton of help. Again, I didn't have a lot of takes on that because it's been a long time since we talked about it. And then Mage needs God in its life. Mage, if you are a Mage player, yeah. The copium for Mage is that it was released somewhat recently, and there hasn't been anything really said. Okay, here's the copium. So most of these devs are working on 2 different trees. It's very possible that the Mage person is involved in collaborating with like the Monk and DH tree. Look at the Hunter and Shaman dev, right? The Hunter and Shaman dev has all the time in the world to work on Hunter because Shaman is hard done. They had to nerf Shaman. And it's still insane. So this guy's just a Hunter guy now. The rest of them are hard working on 2 trees. So for sure, guys, the Mage guys just... or maybe he's on vacation. Max, they could at least say they are doing something instead of 3 weeks of silence. You're basically just asking for feedback. Because I honestly don't think anything... You don't do anything when you do this. You just said you'd rather hear something instead of 3 weeks of silence. Okay, well, so Priests had 3 weeks of silence. And then they came out with this fat post. Let me find it. Right here. Okay, and then they had 3 weeks of silence, right? Or 2 weeks of silence. And then they just said, hey guys, we're going to cast a Power Word update on you soon. Right? And then they haven't. So like saying they're going to do it and then not doing it is irrelevant. What you're basically asking for, everyone just wants what Hunters have, right? If we're being honest. Every single class, regardless of the current state of their tree, just wants their dev talking to them every day. I mean, everyone wants that. Everyone is hard jealous of Hunters. They would kill for that. It's not going to happen. There's a couple of them that are pretty communicative. The rogue DH guy is actually in here all the time. It's just about a feel thing. Like, let's just say 2 classes are exactly the same, right? So there's actually something I know about the DK dev. I actually inquired about him one time. And basically what I heard from a Blizzard developer is he's not someone who wants to be in the spotlight. He doesn't want to, like, openly talk with the community, but he's insane at his job. And he listens to feedback and he iterates on it, but he does not really communicate a lot. He referred to him as a silent assassin. He said he's so good at his job. He thinks he's like really, really good. And like the thing is that kind of developer, let's just say they post a big thing of changes 2 months later. And keep in mind, guys, before we even get into all that, you have to understand as a dev wanting to be anonymous, basically. I mean, it makes total sense why you would not want that. If 2 things are the same, if the same changes happened after 2 months with one class, but they were getting feedback every week, and then the other class where they heard nothing, but they got the same changes and their class was just as good in Dragonflight, the first class that got feedback all the time is very happy. The other class is not happy. I mean, they'll be happy eventually, but like they're just sitting there in sadness and they're confused.